Hello, Trailblazer fans, Blazers Edge readers. Welcome to another edition of the Blazers Edge Videocast. I'm Sam Tung along with Dave Deckard. We have another email question for you today. If you'd like to send in an email, please do so. blazersub@gmail.com, the place that you can send those emails about anything Trailblazers or basketball related. Again, blazersub@gmail.com. Dave, our emailer today is Bryce. And Bryce asking one of the more controversial questions that we will have on the videocast or have had thus far. And his question is, lots of talk about Batum and Matthews lately. When one has a good game, the other has a bad one. Neither is reaching his supposed defensive potential. The easy question would be whether they're compatible, but I'm asking a tougher one. If you could choose only one of the two to remain on the team, which would you keep? Again, that question from Bryce, a very, very tough question. Actually, something that I'm guessing, Dave, that the front office is probably asking themselves right now. So wanted your thoughts on the Matthews and Batum debate, and which one, if you could only keep one, would you keep?
My goodness. I like the things Batum does better. He has more skills. He has some brilliant play. He has good court sense. As a player, I like Batum better. However, what frustrates you about Batum and excites you about Matthews is that when Matthews makes a mistake, it's an error of commission. And when Batum makes a mistake, it's an error of omission. So even though Batum is the better player overall, I think clearly, he will have less of an effect game to game than Matthews will if you look over the long term. Both of them obviously are indispensable to Portland's attack right now, but if you're looking at a long-term question of which to take, what do you like? Do you like Matthews bringing it every night, still having vacillations, but you know exactly what you're going to get from him, and it's not bad? Or do you like Batum going here and then here and then here and then there, and you're always semi-intrigued and always semi-frustrated? It's an impossible choice, but I'll go with Batum. I think the Blazers need that extra pop. I think Matthews does a lot of stuff, but basically what they need over there is a guy who can hit that weak side three. I can probably replace that easier than I can replace the things Batum does. But I'm not happy about it.
I think I would have to agree with you, Dave. But we also, to add another layer onto this conversation, is there's also kind of the monetary aspect of it. Batum is a higher paid player. So I think that if you're thinking about, which guy you're going to keep, it's, to me, you sort of have to think of it as how much bang for my buck am I getting? And I think that this season, Nick Batum has made a lot of progress in that. You mentioned the omission part of it. I think that he has improved. Even if he isn't scoring, he's grabbing rebounds. He's an assist guy. He can sort of fill the stat sheet in a lot of different ways. But I do think that it's a legitimate question, and another layer onto this conversation. While I would probably agree with you in taking Batum over Matthews, if you were to compare the two dollar for dollar, a guy that's making in the single digits versus a guy like Batum that's making double-digit $1 million on his current contract, does that change the way that you think about this conversation?
Well, it depends on what you would do with that $3 or $4 million of difference, and I'm not sure that would be significant enough to pull another big name player in. So to the financials, I don't think would probably make a difference to me at this point. The way things are structured, Batum's contract does run 1 year longer than everybody else's does. So if you were looking to clear more cap space in the summer of 2015, that would make a huge difference. But the bare difference between their salaries isn't that great. The big difference, I think, or the big deciding point for me, I suppose, is that even though you laud the way Wesley plays, he's been having a lot of games where he's been missing shots, and that's the one cardinal rule. He cannot do that. If he were still shooting 40% every night from 3-point range, and you could bank on him not having 3 of 15 outings, I think I might swing the other way, actually, because I could get something on the trade market for Batum, nice bring back, and that would be great. I don't think I can get that for Matthews. But Matthews just is starting to adopt some of Batum's inconsistency in the most important aspect of his game, and you can't live with that. So, for me, that tips me over the edge. You got to go with Nick.
And I think, too, Dave, just the overall package that you're getting from Batum, as I said, he's going to rebound the ball. He's going to be an assist guy. And I think that if Matthews, as you alluded to, if Matthews isn't making his shot, they can both be effective on the defensive end, but on the offensive side of the ball, is Matthews going to immediately turn into the distributor? Does he have the ability to recognize that it's not his night or it's someone else's night? Aldridge gets it going early. Lillard is attacking the basket and making shots. Even a guy like Wesley or Batum, whichever one we're talking about, the other guy, he gets it going early on. I think that Batum has the ability to, has the skill set. He's obviously honing his consistency in this, but you can tell that this season he's really changed that mindset that if I'm not affecting the game in one way, I'm going to figure out a way to affect the game. And I'm not saying that he's elite at that, but I do think that he's made a lot of progress in that regard. And I'm not really sure if Wesley has the talent in order to do something like that. It's just not his skill set. He's a brutal defender. He's a firm guy on the defensive end, and he can shoot threes, and that's his game. But I don't think that he has the breadth of game that Nick has at this point.
Yeah, and Batum has gotten better at it, but still, it's not just a matter of it being someone else's night. This guy is scared of the night sometimes. He just absolutely runs away from opportunities, and this is what I don't get. And the same thing on the defensive end. Now, Matthews is not the quickest guy. He's sturdy, but he doesn't have the foot movement to keep with a lot of NBA's elite wing players, and that shows, okay? He gets scored on, but he's always out there trying. Very seldom have I looked at Wesley Matthews and said, he just let that play go, or he wasn't into that. Batum turns his head or just lets the guy go some nights for no particular reason. I don't understand what's going on in his brain sometimes. Even the chase down blocks. How many blocks have you seen him chase down over the last month? And he's been in position and he's just kind of let it go sometimes. And I don't know, you can say discretion is the better part of valor, but you got to have some valor. You can't have all discretion. And it seems like for weeks at a time, sometimes for months at a time, but Batum is all discretionary, no valor at all. So I understand Nick's statistics are better. I understand that he's hopping from thing to thing and always doing something. I credit him for that. But dang, you've just got to want more often from this guy, and you have to wonder why he's not giving it. And this is the eternal question. And the other follow-up is, how long? How many years, how many seasons do we watch a hot start and then that fades in, late winter and it's gone by early spring and it kind of doesn't come back and you end up pointing in the summer and saying, for the first 2 months of the season, this guy was an all-star. Well, the season is not 2 months long. How long do we keep asking these questions? Who knows? Which is why empathy for Matthews, sympathy towards Matthews, at least he doesn't make you ask those questions.
Dave, I have to be honest, you definitely are pulling a Dan Dierdorf here and starting to argue with yourself. I think you were working really hard at convincing yourself that Wes Matthews was the guy. I'm
trying, but it's still Nick. But I don't like it. I like what Batum does. I love Batum about 35% of the time. He's the most amazing player I've ever seen. The other 65% of the time, I lose hair over him. And that's not, so, he's the guy, but I don't have to like it.
So then at what point does the team make that decision? I mean, you just said it. They have to be, if you're pulling your hair out, I can't imagine that there aren't other guys that are thinking the exact same. We've seen this before. You know, we've seen the way that he can affect a game and dominate a game. But then it's just happened so inconsistently. I mean, at what point do you realistically move on?
Well, you hope a couple of things. First of all, the ideal would be to build around him so well that it doesn't matter when he has an off night. So you get to take advantage of all his great nights, and you don't have to worry about the ones that aren't so great. And I think that's what they've tried to do. They're hoping that LaMarcus Aldridge, Damian Lillard will be pillars around him. Matthews will kind of be the mortar that fills in the cracks, and Lopez as well. So you have this wall here containing Batum, and every once in a while when he pops over the top like a jack-in-the-box, you go, woo, the Blazers win. And if he doesn't, well, that wall still looks pretty good. The problem with that theory is it only works until, for instance, you get into a really tough playoff series and you need all hands on deck and Batum isn't there, then you're going to lose every one of those. So long term, you have to ask if that strategy will ever work. But short term, I think that is what they're doing. As far as when they go away from Batum, the answer is simple: when you have a better alternative. And right now, I don't think they do. Right now, I don't think they're built well enough to know what that alternative will be. They have to shore up other areas like the bench or whatever. But, you know, a year or two down the road, if you're looking at making a move and Batum can leverage you, a guy that you think is going to be better, of course you go for that.
Again, thanks to Bryce for his email today. It looks like we're both in the Batum camp, although one of us kicking and screaming, trying to maybe convince himself otherwise. But again, thanks to Bryce for his email, blazersub@gmail.com, a place that you can continue to send those emails. For Dave Deckard, I'm Sam Tung. We will see you all in a couple days with another edition of the Blazers Edge Videocast. We'll talk to you all soon.